All right, so now we're going to get going. So this next slide it's got a lot going on, okay? But if you can just master this one slide, it can be life-changing, and including how we can deal with students who are struggling, parents who are struggling, staff that are struggling. There's a lot on here that we can use, and also we're going to dot connect to the political strife that we have as a nation, and I'm going to explain why it's happening right now and what we can do to come back together as Americans. So this is a neuron, and we have about 100 billion of these when we're born, 100 billion when we die. And we thought once you get to about the age of 10, it's all downhill from there. You might as well give up on life. But it turns out that we have the ability to expand these branches, the dendrites, till the day we die. And there's lots of studies, the Nun study, the taxi driver study, I could go on and on. There's hundreds of studies to show that neuroplasticity, the ability to expand neural networks, is unlimited till the day we die. And I'm going to quiz you soon on what the two key predictors are of that. But let me still give you a little bit of perspective first before we jump to that. And so it turns out that everything is a neural network. Everything that matters to you is a neural network. And even physicians haven't caught up, and scientists haven't caught up to the implications of neuroplasticity, let alone how to accelerate it. And that's what you're going to learn today, is how to accelerate neuroplasticity and where to target neuroplasticity. And so everything, knowledge, understanding, skills, like you're the expert of these, happiness, these are all neural networks, and you can expand them as much as you want. The really great piece of evidence for that is, how many of you heard of the 10,000 hour idea? That's sort of dying on the vine. But the point is that a famous scientist, Anders Ericsson, who just passed away a couple of years ago, proved that talent and intelligence is not the predictor of being great in anything. It's gone. That has been disproven. It is time and one other thing that predicts how great you are in anything you can think of: being a significant other, being an educator, being a leader, being a student, being a customer service representative. There's two factors. One of them I'm giving you already: time, right? Not talent and intelligence. There's no evidence of that. There's one other factor that's vital for expanding whatever neural network you want to expand. Any guesses? So I can stop talking. Don't be shy. I will never embarrass you. Opportunity? Okay. I'll just let you just keep rattling off ideas. Perseverance, okay. Efficacy, okay. Practice, okay. Positivity. Okay. The answer is feedback tolerance. It's how much feedback you can tolerate. Remember A Few Good Men, Jack Nicholson? What did he say? You can't handle the truth, right? It's true. We can't handle the truth. We hate the truth because our lower brain, for evolutionary reasons that we will get into soon, blocks us from the pain of truth. And you've got a problem now. There's a conundrum here, because it turns out this is the promised land for 2 or 3 reasons. Expanding neural networks, first of all, being on the edge of your comfort zone in order to expand all these categories of neural networks is really exhilarating. It's the flow state that you've probably heard of. It's norepinephrine, focus, anandamide, which is dot connecting neural networks. It's dopamine, which is, you've heard of dopamine, but dopamine is a novelty neurotransmitter. There's way more novelty in here than there is out there. Validation and pleasure externally pale by comparison to being on the edge of your comfort zone and expanding neural networks, and even more than that. And then as you expand the neural networks even more, it's beautiful. You created a system that's amazing, and you're dot connecting all the time, and you're lost in this wonderland of discovery and experimentation and dot connecting and genius of your craft, mastery, excellence. So it's very fulfilling. and that's serotonin, GABA, which is the anti-anxiety neurotransmitter, which we as anesthesiologists use drugs, benzodiazepines all the time to harness this system. It's an amazing system, but you can actually increase your GABA production, anxiety reduction, and oxytocin, which is the connection hormone, which is a much higher high than dopamine. And so the issue is we've got a conundrum, which is a dopamine system of the lower brain will drop your levels of dopamine below the 0 level so that you feel discomfort, right? We as Americans have a lot of discomfort right now, and it's always a lost narrative that's going on. And that lost narrative blocks us from getting to the promised land, because you have to take on feedback and the discomfort of failure, loss, and rejection to get here to the promised land. This is way more happiness than you can produce with anything else. Drugs do some of this, but they have consequences, as we know, and they're not sustainable, and the swing is too great, and the damage is too great. So this is the highest of highs. So this is exhilaration, fulfillment, and success. And by the way, the science of success, the science of connection, the science of happiness, they're all saying the same thing. It's the time you put in, and it's the feedback that you can tolerate, because they're all basically neural networks. That's a good time to pause for a second and tell me what you think about that concept. What do you agree? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you uncomfortable with it? Any questions so far? Don't worry about your dopamine levels dropping. We have to practice dopamine drops, practice being uncomfortable.
Coaches, and we can picture kids that were really receptive to feedback, that really coachable athlete, and how far they could go. So that strikes true with me. And next to that, but kind of interesting, I was to do a podcast this weekend about this. I forget the name, but she said feedback isn't a right. I think in our organization, we do expect, as leaders, we're expected to give feedback to the people that we serve. We expect our teachers to give quality feedback to kids. But that idea that it's a gift, it's not a right, kind of alongside with how coachable are you, how receptive are you, I just kind of interesting to me as I'm listening.
Yeah, agreed. And we don't typically think about the system and the pain that it creates, which blocks people from taking on feedback and even self-sabotage opportunity. We all do it. It happens to everybody. But there's some people that are in particular traumatized and more vulnerable to this drop. And so we need to think about this as educators. You need to think about, this is a non-zero sum or infinite sum opportunity that all human beings have the ability to expand neural networks. And this is also a very profound concept to consider as educators is, and in society, we're trapped in this notion of social rank, right? So why is this dopamine system, which by the way also activates the fear system, the anxiety system, the stress system, the thinking system? I use an acronym called CFAST, and that'll be on one of the slides, CFAST. Why is this system there? This is a very, very important concept to understand in order to sort of block the fiction of this system. There's a very powerful false narrative that it's creating. Why is this system there? Before you answer that, any other thoughts on this? I'm charging ahead too fast, but neural, please. Sure.
Stressed out, they're the ones that if you give them any feedback, man, they
Collapse. psychological collapse almost, or yeah, or angry, or yeah, yeah. Other thoughts on?
Any strategies that we are effective in providing feedback, like how to effectively provide feedback itself, help people self.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And that's essentially what this workshop is going to be about today, is to how to deal with this system. This is the troublemaker. Yeah, so so to me, this is the why of motivating students to take on this feedback. Like if I give you feedback in isolation, it's like, "Ugh, get away from me. I hate you. You don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand my life," which, partially true. So I think we both need to give them a why and a how to shut this system off, so they're willing to go from left to right. And to Casey's point about engagement is a big theme, I believe, right? I agree with that completely. Like wellness will take care of itself automatically. When you're high like this, you are very well. Your immune system works better, your brain works better, your body works, like everything self-reconciles when you're high on life, for a variety of protein messengers like IL-6 and gamma waves. And there's a whole alphabet soup that I can rattle off that makes you higher functioning body, brain, immune system. So wellness automatically, but this is engagement here, is to go from left to right and tolerate commitment, which has to overcome the FOMO, fear of missing out system, and feedback tolerance, which has to overcome the self-esteem system. So that's another dot I wanted to connect with about engagement in particular, and why this is the key. So yes, so one way to encourage, take the pain, is it's worth it. We have to make it more concrete and tangible where we're heading to, because what kids normally do and humans normally do is they catastrophize the bad outcome. And so we have to understand this system too and say, listen, that's a fiction. So I want to get into that a little bit. And that's going to be one of the building blocks for how do we get them to take on more feedback. Why is this system there? And I'll actually, do I have that? Oh, no, it's way down there. It's going to be too irritating. Let's do this, actually. CFAST. This is the dopamine system. The dopamine system activates the whole lower brain. So this is the introduction of the lower brain. Craving system, fear system, and these are the parts of the brain that they are housed in. And sometimes they're distinct networks, and sometimes they're distributed networks. We don't have to get into the debate about that. And that's some people who have read a lot about brain science. It's somewhere. It's either a local network or a distributed network. It actually doesn't matter, but some of these have specific targets. So why is this system there? This is really important, because this is going to be another brain hack to increase feedback tolerance. Any thoughts on why these systems are there? And they are launched by the dopamine system, craving and loss avoidance. Any thoughts? Survival, yeah, of what? Not to put you on the spot.
Like, how do you survive the environment that was harsh?
Yeah. So survival of the body, right? Why I'll say, and thank you for being vulnerable and saying something. Almost everybody says that. Survival of the body turns out to be the wrong answer, because for most of human history, our average life expectancy has been 27. So weren't doing a very good job until the higher brain showed up 200,000 years ago. Longevity started to take off really only in the last 200-300 years. So it was higher brain creativity that allowed body survival. So what else survival? I said survival, species, and specifically survival of the genes. So the reason this system, and the way I explain evolutionary biology, is that we have mutations occurring in the genes all the time. I shouldn't just point here, the genes are everywhere. So if you have a if you have a negative mutation, it can be things like cancer. If it's a positive mutation, it can lead to a functional change that allows you to survive that environment better. And so what happened is this lower brain, this limbic system showed up over the last 3 million years plus. in order for the genes to survive, right? So that's why this dopamine system is there. It's for gene survival. Now, what's the key to gene survival? And this is also gonna, let's dot connect to why we as Americans are having a massive dopamine drop right now and why. But we'll come back to that part B. Part A, how do you get the genes to survive? What is this dopamine system trying to do to help us with our genes getting to the next generation? By the way, the genes don't care about us. They care about them. That's how evolutionary biology works, right? So what are strategies to get the genes to survive? And this is a brain hack. What's that? So reproduction is the what, right? And so how does it facilitate that? You're exactly right. Reproduction is vital. So mating is the key. Absolutely. And what's the key to being successful in terms of mating? We don't have to get into like those weeds. I'm not asking for birds and bees clarification here, but in front of that, what allows you to be more successful? Tribe, being part of a tribe. We're getting very hyper tribal right now. Okay, so that's a side effect of this system. It's also social rank, self-esteem. I'll ask people, I'll usually trick you into, I won't do it to you. You're such a nice group of people. But I'll say, self-esteem important. Everyone raises their hand. And I will show you that self-esteem is a waste of time. Self-efficacy is different. That's a higher brain self-esteem. And self-fulfillment is a higher brain self-esteem. So we can quibble about definitions. But the lower brain self-esteem, that's the main thing. That's the main troublemaker. And it's obsessed with with rank. So we are designed to be very selfish, very short-term selfish in terms of rank, resources, group acceptance. It's all for gene survival. Okay, that system is now destroying us. So we need to shut it off and go higher. That's the big thing that we're going to be working on. And so that's a part of it, is to help people understand, listen, when you feel that pain, I had a suicidal athlete call me just last week, and we talked about this system. And I said, listen, this is what's going on, and understand why it's there, and it's powerful. It's a real feeling. I'm not denying your feeling, and I've been there. Not the suicide part, but this pain part 1,000 times. But let's understand why it's there. It's a fiction. Let's go anchor somewhere else. Okay. And he's doing much better, thankfully. So it's really important to understand this system because it's an old system that's very powerful because it's been around for millions of years. Higher brain's only been around for 200,000 years. So you have to be conscious about becoming higher brain dominant with neuroplasticity, and then this will shrink on the vine, as we will talk about. So I think coming back to this, let's go back to. So that's part of the strategy for feedback tolerance. And thank you for, again, asking that question, is to both feel like the feedback has a purpose as opposed to just, sadomasochistically beating ourselves up, for what purpose? It's so abstract that people don't, why should I take on this pain? What's the point? So the 1% that takes on the pain is people like myself who are doing pretty well academically or athletically, and we have enough sort of self-esteem to tolerate the hits. So we're willing to take more hits. And so we can stay on a positive cycle. Everyone else is like, no, thank you, not interested. I don't need this. What's the point? Right? So we need to make the point come alive, the why, and the how of shutting this system off more and more so we can tolerate feedback and commitment. You have to overcome FOMO, fear of missing out, in order to commit time to be masterful of whatever you want to be masterful of. And then the what is going to be, we're going to practice reps of discomfort ourselves here with brain hacks to increase our discomfort tolerance. This is where we're heading, is brain hacks can make this a lot less painful. So break off into pairs, or if you have an odd number, three of you, and take a moment just to catch your breath, and then we'll take a break after that. But think about these concepts. Feel free to, challenge me. I'm here to learn also. I love to learn new perspectives, new ideas. So do you accept this idea that you have to tolerate more self-esteem and FOMO dropping, dopamine dropping, to get to the promised land of excellence and success? That dot connecting at the neural network and even process map and social, all these systems, is a source of great exhilaration and beauty and fulfillment. And finally, the more you can accept self-esteem drop, the more playful and joyful you are, the more you can gamify anything in life, basically. Anything that's working, not working, doesn't matter. Make something better, recognize that something's not going well. That's can make life much more interesting. So break off into 2s or 3s, and maybe a couple minutes each, or 2-3 minutes each. Share what you've absorbed so far in the last hour, and what is it within these categories, any of them. Okay, and then we can take a break. So we've kind of hit on this. So this is pretty quick, which is non-zero sum internally is a way to, where the reason we go to lower brain is always a zero sum narrative. It's always a loss narrative. It's always a loss of status or a loss of opportunity or a loss of resources or a loss of whatever you've gotten attached to because of a narrative that was created by the orbital prefrontal cortex in collaboration with the nucleus accumbens, put a dopamine signature on that and said, that's really good. Not having that is bad. It can be anything. It can be an idea. It can be anything you can think of. We can get attached to that outcome or that idea. And so what we can counter that with is the realization, and the reason you want to do this brain work is to keep shutting off the lower brain and increase your tolerance for change, right? The more you can shut this off, the more fearless you become, the more adaptable you become, the more anxiety just plunges, because anxiety is fear of the unknown. But if you're like, you know what, I have all these ways to shut my lower brain off and then be creatively fearless and relationship fearless and innovation fearless, we'll get there, and especially a group of higher brain people, untouchable, unstoppable. You'll be fine, dealing with whatever difficulty there is. I like the great example of even enslaved folks who were but they were in real strong community, were able to find joy. Or people describe when you go to Africa, that even though they have such poverty, the joyfulness that the people have is something for us to learn from. We're so in our head worrying about the future and what we don't want to lose, that we forget about joy from moment to moment. And then in time, all of life's chaos becomes a platform for creativity rather than a threat state. So remember, because of neural networks, neural systems, process systems, and we're going to work on that next, social systems, we have infinite access to exhilaration, beauty, fulfillment. No matter what your role is, no matter what your task is, it actually doesn't matter what you do. It can be a platform for creativity. To me, your role doesn't matter. It's the mentality that you bring to that role in terms of creativity and science, making it better and better, that matters. And so that's non-zero or infinite sum internally. And then externally, we have to stop being competitive with each other and jealous of each other, envious of each other, trying to outdo each other. It's an old brain system that's doing that to us. We have enough food and shelter. We all have infinite access to creativity, creative joy, and loving, trusting connection. But when we co-create things, it's even more powerful. When we're ego surrendered, and I've experienced this in multiple situations, it's amazing how fast you can flow with ideas and fail fast, right? Toss out what's not working. That's what Silicon Valley, how many of you are familiar with the agile methodology? Usually almost nobody raises their hand, which is, so this is a revolution in organizational functioning that's coming down the pipeline. Silicon Valley has been doing this for 50 years, which is they discovered, and the reason Amazon, Google, Netflix, Microsoft, all these companies have become really successful is because of the agile methodology. And it's very easy to copy. Basically, what they figured out is you can take any goal that you have and the steps to that goal, you can chunk it up and cycle really fast and test out the individual chunks of the product or the program or the services and measure and fail fast what's not working. Stay close to the customer and close to metrics, and you'll more quickly piece together a beautiful system. So they chunked it up, they cycle fast, they fail fast, and they get lots of metrics and customer feedback. They're close to the ground. Your customer could be your student, a parent, your colleague, a significant other, doesn't matter. They're all customers as far as I'm concerned. And so what we can do together is unlimited, right? In terms of helping each other with our neural networks, communities, and processes. So you want to innovate, measure, and that's what I call the brain science of agile, which somehow we were able to trademark. And this is all nonprofit, by the way. I don't care about profit, but we got it. So, which means you know how to shut off your lower brain, right? You're aware of it, you can shift out of it, and you get better and better at that. Now you can tolerate more risk-taking and innovation and measurement. But when you do that, you're more exhilarated, you're more fulfilled. That causes the higher brain to get more activated. And that's a super cycle that's really awesome. So this is what we want to do, is to use brain hacks to tolerate discomfort, but then the discomfort of innovation and measurement and difficult conversations, which then proves to our lower brain, we got this. We don't have to worry. We don't have to catastrophize the future. Even if there's a bad outcome, we'll adapt. And so I think this is another point that Casey and I had a lovely conversation. We've had a couple of lovely conversations, but I know this is the 3 pillars you mentioned, right? So I think this is the key to learning, working in community, I believe, and engagement, is to be more creative. We're a nation of garage tinkerers with restless souls who are always wanting to be pioneers, but now we have to be pioneers of the inside and the pioneers of our processes and how we do things and how our communities are built, less so exploring the frontier, the Western frontier, what have you. So this is what we want to do, non-zero sum, not worrying about bad outcomes, because that's this, in order to be more creatively joyful, deeply connected, etc. So that's another brain hack. And I have all the brain hacks listed for our activity. Questions so far?